All right, welcome back to another episode of Just Buy Less Coffee, answering the deeper questions of American politics. My name is Troy, aka Keep Troy Blue. With me, as always, is Cathy Cannon, aka Cannon's Fodder. Big 48 hours.
Yeah, what's
Cathy,
going
nothing
on?
really happened this weekend. It was pretty slow
Nothing
weekend.
interesting.
It was boring. We live in
There
just
was
boring
a
times
new House of Dragon episode. That's probably news. Nope.
that I haven't
Nothing
seen
else
yet.
interesting?
No spoils. I
No.
haven't seen it yet.
No, I won't. I'm saying.
Holy shit! Assassination
Yeah, I know.
attempt on Donald Trump. We'll get into the like staged conspiracy theories a little bit later, I think.
Boy.
But we could talk about it straight up front. I think this hasn't happened since Reagan. Was Reagan the last one that was?
The last one to actually be injured in an
Right.
attempt. The last attempt, no. Far from the
And
last.
I wonder if we're going to get into that later on the.
I wonder. I wonder if Cannon has done some homework for us.
We're going to do a deep dive on the history of presidential assassinations, attempted assassinations, putting the deep dive from the last episode on hold for a little bit because something happened the day we were
Yeah, I was like,
going to
Donald
record.
Trump got fucking shot.
Day we
Troy
were going
texts
to
me, he goes, Trump got shot. I'm like, all right, so never mind. New assignment.
yeah, Trump got a little ear piercing there in Pennsylvania. So what we know, Trump's shooter is a 20-year-old. He dead now. Was a 20-year-old
Yeah.
white guy named Thomas Matthew Crooks from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, Allegheny County, outside of Pittsburgh. Registered Republican, only 20 years old. Registered in 2021. Voted in the 2022 midterms. That was the last time he voted. He did not vote in the Republican primaries, according to voting records.
He voted for extra credit. I'm gonna go ahead.
So
I'm calling it.
this guy could definitely have been one of your students. I'd love to get your take on it. But
I definitely offer extra credit, and I guarantee you, he registered right before, voted once, he had fucking extra credit. He got his driver's license and extra credit.
Well, he registered as quickly as he could
Yeah.
to be a Republican, like as soon as he could. Voted in 2022. A lot of the people saying he registered Republican to be like a spoiler because Pennsylvania has closed primaries, like vote for Nikki Haley. He did not vote in the primaries, so that theory is out. And he donated 50. If this is him, now there's still like conflicting evidence about this. If this is him, Thomas Crooks from Pennsylvania, from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, donating $15 to a progressive Get Out the Vote nonprofit. Now, first of all, if that is him, it would have been $15 when he's 17 years old. But there's also some confusion about that. No, we haven't yet really confirmed if that was him. Most people think it probably was him, but again, he wasn't from Pittsburgh. The donation record says Pittsburgh, but apparently in that region, if you're in the Pittsburgh region, you can claim a Pittsburgh address. So I don't know. It's a little bit different.
Well, that's funny. I mean, I guess I can't remember where I saw it, but I'm like, there's news. I did think I didn't know that I do know. I actually saw that they found it's some 69-year-old guy. He has the same first and last name, different middle name. He's 69, not 17, right? And it's just it's the media like curse of our age. You'd rather get it wrong first than right last.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, probably what happened there. Now it's created all kinds of fucking confusion.
So I don't know if we have that confirmed yet, but definitely the kid, registered Republican, 20 years old, shot Trump from a rooftop about a football field and a half away, grazed Trump's ear, bloody ear, shooting sideways. So people were wondering, another conspiracy theory was why wasn't anybody behind Trump hit? Well, he was shooting sideways, not directly at Trump's, not at Trump's face.
I've also seen like it was a shard of glass from the telecom.
Yeah, that's another thing. They haven't released any of the like medical reports, which is really weird. He may have just been hit by glass, not actually a bullet.
Yeah.
Which frankly would make more sense because if it's a powerful enough rifle to hit from that distance, it hit in the angle that it hit, it probably would have taken off the back of his head at that angle. So I'm not sure if the bullet even hit him. It may have just been a glass shard.
Yeah, and see, that's kind of my take on it. Like these kind of things are it's always quick to jump to the conspiracies. We love to, right? It's the grassy knoll, it's the shooter, it's the magic bullet. Like we all have it. And it's important to not kind of fall for that. Like we don't know anything, and you're probably not going to know anything. So everything about this is going to be political spin, because let's say he did only get hit with a piece of glass. Donald Trump's not going to want to admit that. He's going to want to milk the fact that
Right.
he took a bullet, right? So he
He
could
would
ask
never
that
admit that.
the right. And like the security breach within the Secret Service, you don't want to put that on fucking blast during a contentious president. This is where we suck, everybody. Meanwhile, both candidates are going around like, we're gonna go through the list and you'll see, like, the Secret Service fucking up isn't no, like, they're not perfect. They're not the Knights Templar, okay? Like, they're just dudes.
They have a pretty strikingly good. I know that they have to be perfect. They have to be 100%. They do have a pretty strikingly good record considering the amount of public appearances and then the number of different people they have to provide a perfect protection to.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's a tease up. Second half of the show, we are going to do the deep dive on history of presidential assassination. So if you are not subscribed to Patreon, do that now. Patreon, patreon.com/justbuylesscoffee, $5 a month. You'll get access to the more exclusive parts of the deep dive that we don't cover on the show. We will cover a chunk on the regular show for the regular listeners. And then subscribe to Patreon, head on over and see the rest of it. So crazy.
I love that Troy has to do that though, because like I could not in real time spell Patreon. Every time you do it, I go P.
I created a little jingle for them so people can remember where to go.
Do it.
So absolutely crazy. Okay, so he's on a rooftop, totally in the line of sight of Trump's head, and somehow he's not spotted by the Secret Service, or he's spotted too late by the Secret Service.
Yeah, I also saw a report that somebody was like, "Hey, yo, there's a guy on the roof over there," and nobody did anything.
Yeah,
I don't know how true it is. Again, it's just shit I saw on the internet.
He doesn't have a military. He has no military background at all, as far as we know.
He's 20.
He's
how
20.
much military? Like
he was a
most
member
he's gotten
of
through boot camp.
Yeah, I mean Oswald was what, like 25, but Oswald was a Marine. Had gone through boot camp, had gotten Marine rifle training. So Oswald knew what the fuck he was doing with a gun. This kid was just this kid was a 2A fanatic. He had a lot of guns, was a member of a gun club in high school.
They have gun clubs in high school.
I don't know if it was high school or just like a local gun club. He was a member of his local gun club. He got kicked out because he was such a bad shot. He was considered a safety hazard. So if you're that bad, I guess he's just like waving the rifle all around the range or whatever.
Maybe that's what it's about. Maybe they all made fun of him for being a bad shot. So he's like, "I'll show you. Watch this shot." And still it was a bad one.
If he did hit Trump's ear with the bullet, that's a pretty good fucking shot from how far away he was.
Assuming he was aiming for Trump's ear.
Like, yeah. Again, everyone's like, "Oh, he missed. He sucks." Like, that's a pretty good fucking shot if it was the bullet.
Shouldn't we be glad he missed, guys? Like, we shouldn't be mocking him. Like just saying, never mind.
I still think maybe it was a piece of glass or whatever. But one person hit in the crowd died. I guess several people hit. One person died. So that's kind of what we know. The rest is speculation. The rest is all politics and up to history at this point, and how Trump was going to respond. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on the politics of it? Cannon, Trump coming out was reportedly going to make this big like unifying message speech. Was reportedly going to like tone down the anger and the vitriol. Like the first thing he does is come out with all the cases against me should be just like, that was the time of unity. Dismiss all the cases against me and give me immunity.
Interesting. Yeah, it's interesting that he comes out with dismiss all the cases against me, and then immediately one of his judges dismissed the case against him. But what am I? Yeah. Who am I to judge?
Like the day after he gets shot in the ear,
yeah.
the judge.
Oh, you're right. Go ahead and sell our secrets to our enemies. No big fucking deal. Big fucking deal, guys. Big fucking deal. Yeah. I think this is going to actually be interesting to watch play out for a lot of reasons. Because there's, like I said, all we're going to get from this is spin. Republicans are going to want to spin it as Donald Trump's a hero. He took a bullet. Nothing can stop him. Look at he go. Meanwhile, Donald or Joe Biden stumbles over his words, right? That's the narrative that Republicans are going to want to push out. And the one Democrats can very easily push out was, you were shot by a gun we tried to ban because of open carry laws you passed. in a culture of political violence that you kind of started. Like everything that happens that day is a consequence of the policies of your party, the same policies we've been fighting against. I don't understand why you won't let us protect your presidential candidate from your supporters, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. All this
But
Republican on Republican crime is
I know.
insane.
But that said, like it's gonna open the obvious question, because whenever there's a shooting of any kinds, the same debate is always started. Like, oh, well, we need better gun laws. And Republicans are like, no, we don't. We're gonna wear our guns on our lapels. And Democrats are like, no, but for fucking real, everybody's like people are getting shot. And so far they've proven to us they'll shrug their shoulders when it's elementary school kids, but I'd like to see how the cult people respond when it's their dear leader, right? Because they're all very upset. If you've been on Twitter, they're very upset. Like,
yeah,
very upset.
It's thoughts and prayers when kids get slaughtered in their classroom, but this was the worst thing that's ever happened.
Yeah, but fucking a vigil for, Orange Julius. It's fine. But like, I do want to see how they respond when Democrats come and say the Secret Service are like the best trained agents in the world, and they can't protect like one of the most powerful men in the world from getting shot with a gun from some kid who just took it from his dad. Like, gun laws are so crazy right now that the Secret Service can't protect the president. We have to do something. And I'd love to see Republicans be like, nah, there are no gun laws. Like that will be an interesting debate to actually have. Like, Donald Trump, like, did you enjoy getting shot? Do you think other people should risk getting shot? We couldn't even keep you from getting shot. That's how dangerous it is. Will you commit right now to signing an assault weapons ban? And like, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, like Joe Biden being the one he's running against after Reagan was shot. James Brady, his Secret Service agent who was killed at the time, he is who they named the Brady bill, the assault weapons ban that was passed in the 90s. And Joe Biden pioneered that bill. That, like, as much as this is like, oh, look what they just did for Donald Trump, like, look what they just did for Joe Biden was like, give him an opportunity to attack them at their Achilles heel while bragging about one of his most significant accomplishments to a young generation of kids that would love to hear about an assault weapons ban.
Yeah. Meanwhile, bump stocks are back on the market again too. I just think the hypocrisy of it is fucking infuriating.
Obviously,
because all of a sudden now we care about political violence, so we have to turn the volume down and all that stuff. These are the people that were like not a month and a half ago, still laughing about the Paul Pelosi. Trump was still cracking jokes about the Paul Pelosi getting his skull crushed in by a Trump supporter with a hammer. These are the people that wore AR-15 lapel pins in Congress. Not to mention fucking January 6th and hang Mike Pence. I mean,
or their Christmas cards with their fucking like children and rifles. Like, here's my 7-year-old and a rifle. Like, that's a
with
culture
like hundreds
of
of guns in the house.
Exactly.
And the candidates that have the campaign commercials where their Democratic opponent is in like a crosshairs and like shooting up signs. Like, it's a rampant problem. It's been a rampant problem for a decade now, longer, but Trump is really,
and they were quick to jump and try to blame the left. They're like, oh, this is the left. This is left. And I kind of had one of those moments like I do with Joe Biden. Like, is he a dementia-ridden old man who can't speak clearly, or is he a criminal mastermind running the world? Like, tell me this. Are Democrats a bunch of like, beta soy boys or whatever it is they call them? Or are we badass enough to take on the Secret Service and shoot the president? Like, which one is it? Because like, are we here to melt all your guns and hug each other, or do we have guns to kill? Like, make it make sense is where I get with them. But I think this opens
MAGA has to
a box.
MAGA has to simultaneously believe that they are the most powerful people in the world, but also the most threatened people in the world, and the people that are in the most danger. So it's a weird, dichotomy. It's a weird place to be.
It is.
So I don't know that this changes a goddamn thing. It's 48 hours later. The RNC convention has started. Which, by the way, the teleprompter just broke in the middle of Mike Johnson's speech. He just stopped, walked off stage, and they had a band come out and start playing while they're trying to fix the teleprompter. And the band apparently was only prepared to play one song. They've been playing one song over and over and over again. while they're trying to fix
Oh
this
my God, it's
teleprompter.
like the way they tried to like suss everybody out of Waco, remember? Like, so the
Yeah.
RNC convention is fast turning into
like
Waco.
like blasting Slayer over the speakers or something like that.
Fighting for an heir apparent, says the speakers blast terrible music on repeat.
I don't think this moves the needle at all election wise. People are not going to vote for Trump because he got shot. This is going to make his base think he's been chosen by God, but they already did.
They already did.
He's already managing to fuck things up. Like I said, his unity statement was, I should have more power now, and you should just give me immunity and really dismiss all my cases. And he chose JD Vance. JD Vance is officially, as of an hour ago, the VP nominee for Donald Trump. It is Trump Vance. I guarantee you he made that decision on the fly.
Probably this morning he flipped a coin.
He probably flipped a coin this morning. I don't think he gives a fuck. I think the fact that he has to have a vice president annoys him because he doesn't like anyone else getting any attention.
That's an interesting point.
So the only reason he chose JD Vance is because JD Vance is a MAGA sycophant. And he wasn't going to choose. So he ends up choosing a MAGA, a white male MAGA, adds nothing to the ticket, does not expand the Trump coalition at all. And JD Vance, you're going to find out here soon, is a major liability. I don't think they vetted this guy at all, Cathy. I think you're going to learn so much dirt about this guy. He's brand new to politics.
I know.
He's been a senator for like 2 years. Nobody knows anything about him.
It'll be like the John Edwards thing again, right? Like he looks like a up and comer. Let's take it. It'll be fine. It was not fine.
It was not fine. He's got a thing on his website about ending abortion, 100% pro-life. He's got a lot of like weird. He's got a lot of weird shit.
Didn't he have like some weird controversy about one of his campaign ads too? Like when he first ran for office and he barely got elected, like it was a like nail biter to the end kind of thing.
He said that women should stay in violent marriages for the sake of the family. He's compared abortion to slavery. Let's see some of the other. He said it's ridiculous. He's very anti-Ukraine. He's very like a cut off all funding to Ukraine guy.
That's why he picked him. 100%. Oh, new theory. Maybe it was Vladimir Putin that orchestrated the entire thing to tell Donald Trump, you better pick JD Vance because he's my guy.
Ron Filipkowski said that like 2 weeks ago when the two planes, when the Russian plane and the Trump Force One plane were parked next to each other for like 3 days. Nobody knew what the fuck was going on. Ron Filipkowski called that. He was like, Putin's delivering the vice presidential pick, and he wants him to choose Vance. Vance is very like a pro-Russia guy, 100%.
Yeah, to be clear, audience, I am not saying that is a conspiracy theory. I like dreaming up the potential conspiracy theories, sort of to point to how easily they can develop from very little information, right? Like, so just, disclaimer.
So this is a guy that is for a national abortion ban, sort of a spousal abuse enthusiast, conspiracy.
Oh, so that guy on the dates by himself will love this guy. I can never. What's his name? McLean? Is that his name?
January 6th supporter, Project 2025 supporter, and this guy has been the pick for 1 hour, and all this stuff has already come out. I know that we're gonna get a shit ton of stuff on this guy. I don't think they vetted him at all. I don't think
this will be worse than Sarah Palin. Oh my god,
yeah,
he has a pregnant teenage daughter. I'm gonna die.
This is gonna be. He probably has like a pregnant black teenage daughter somewhere. I don't know. This is gonna be the worst. The worst pick because they don't know anything about this guy. I think Trump chose him at the last minute. He chose him for loyalty. He didn't choose him for skill or whatever.
I want to see the women scorn because there's a couple of crazy MAGA ladies who thought they had this in the bag who now have their hearts broken and hell hath no fury, especially Kristi Noem. Like you saw what she did to her dog when he made her mad.
At least
maybe it was Kristi Noem. Maybe she found out she wasn't getting the VP nomination, so she went all fucking cricket on Donnie. So, once again, this is not.
Elise Stefanik had to announce the New York delegates vote total, and she was totally like it was. She had to do it. It was like 10 minutes after Trump made the pick that she had to go up and announce that New York was nominating Donald Trump, and she looked like she was about to fucking burst a seam. And then the hilarious ones are the people on Twitter that saying that Tim Scott's gonna back out of his marriage now or something like that. Like Tim Scott's gonna call off his marriage.
Man,
Yeah.
see, well, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised. That's all I will say on that one.
So presented with a flurry of female candidates and a black guy and a Hispanic guy. Basically, he went with the white guy. Made him shave his beard because
he made him shave his beard. You're lying. You're lying.
He did. We'll see him when he speaks, but he had this like bushy beard. But I'm pretty sure.
Oh my God!
Trump was
expressing
a desire since made it off the cuff remark that like Vance is a good guy, but he needs to shave his beard. I guarantee you, Vance is going to come out clean shaven.
Oh my God! I'm gonna die. That's the funniest thing ever.
He looks weird without a beard. There's a reason why he has a beard.
Yeah, there's a reason every man with a beard has a beard. I call a beard is makeup for men. It is makeup for men.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you're 17 years old, always. Like you're perpetually 17. And you have to commit, though. It has to be a full beard or nothing. Because, like, just the mustache, no. Just no. There's just beard. Something, like, there's just something so 70s porn star about just a bushy mustache. I just, no.
Mustache ride. This is the guy that it looks like he's wearing eyeliner too. He's one of these guys that has like really dark circles around his eyes.
I'm looking up a picture of him right now without his beard. I'm going to see if I can find one.
Just go to Midas. There's one.
Oh, really?
It's really weird. I'm looking at it right now.
He's such chubby cheeks. He looks like a squirrely squirrel. Like he has the oh my God, he looks like such a no. That is not the same guy. That's oh my God. Those of you just listening, this is not wow. No, okay.
The next vice president of the United States. Heartbeat away, Kathy.
No, I'm no longer concerned. Like,
he just entered politics like 2 years ago. He was not
oh my God.
He's a male Sarah Palin, basically.
He's a male Sarah Palin.
Sarah Palin had a more expansive political resume than JD Vance did. Governor of Alaska, for fuck's sake.
This guy, like for those of you who cannot see, I'm going to give you the description, my impression of JD Vance without a beard. And then when you go and look at the picture, I want you to think of this moment and tell me if I nailed it. He looks like the guy that asked every girl to homecoming and then went by himself.
Pretty much.
Like you all know that guy, like after, hey, you want to go home, right? And everybody else is a bitch. Like everyone's a bitch because nobody would go with it. Oh my God, I hate this. Oh, I hate this timeline so very much.
Yeah. Anyway, great pick, Trump. I swear to God, he hadn't made up his mind until like a couple hours ago, and he just flipped a fucking coin. I don't think he gives a shit.
I bet they were playing beer pong for it.
Yeah.
It was like best of
three. All the contenders were invited, but no one knew who the pick was going to be. So they're all like fighting it out.
Dude, this morning,
no one knew. Like, and they were all like, we don't know who the pick is, but we're going to go to the convention and just see. Like,
I guarantee you this morning, they recorded it and they'll release it as like a campaign commercial, and it'll be The Apprentice all fucking over again. And he'll do it exactly like that. Oh my God.
He either wanted them to like fight for his affection, which I'm sure they were doing, or he just didn't care, or both. I'm pretty sure he just doesn't give a fuck. Like the vice president is a non-entity for him, as long as the VP.
It was probably one question: would you like overturn the election for me? Would you throw out? Would you throw out electoral votes? That's the only question they had to answer.
Would you do what Pence refused to do? Basically, absolutely.
That's the only question they have to answer. And JD Vance is his career has been built on like that was his whole thing.
That's the thing is like Glenn Youngkin is a white guy, white conservative guy. Could have picked him. That would have been a much better choice. But Glenn Youngkin wouldn't do that. Glenn Youngkin
exactly. That's the point.
Yeah.
Like as much as I disagree with literally everything he stands for, like at the end of the day, he wouldn't overthrow the government. He wouldn't participate in the coup. Like at least I'd like to think. My governor couldn't be so sure. But
DeSantis is at the convention too. He's got a little speaking spot. Let's see if he gets booed.
Is he in heels?
They finally probably. They finally gave Nikki Haley an invitation. She wasn't invited until Trump got shot.
I was gonna
They
ask you
invited
about that because
that
I
was
kept
another one of his
seeing.
unity things, was to invite Haley to the convention.
Oh my god, because I kept seeing about that. I was like, oh, you know what it is? He's not calling for unity with Democrats then. He's calling for unity within Republicans. And that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because once they found out it was a Republican that shot him,
He's like,
oh,
well, that was what they were saying, which wasn't
oh.
true. They were saying that the shooter was like a Haley voter. Again, he didn't vote in the primaries, but yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
I mean,
no. I don't
maybe
think
they,
that, but like
but
it's
yeah,
a
but maybe
wake
you're
up
right. Like
call.
maybe they think there's like a, the Republican on Republican violence is going to get crazy here. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Oh. Oh, new conspiracy brewing. Oh.
The other story before we go into the deep dive was just Judge Aileen Cannon throwing out
Oh god.
the documents case. It's out, saying that Jack Smith did not have constitutional authority to bring that case forward, which I don't know what the fuck she's talking about. She's the worst judge on the planet.
I
Will
hate once
absolutely
more.
be Cathy's relative, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Thanks
saying.
for
No,
that,
it's
Cathy.
not. Like, that's what I was gonna say. Like, once more, I must tell you all, I hate that I share a name with this bitch. Like, I had the coolest name in the world and she ruined it.
So she threw out that case. That case wasn't going to get heard before the election anyway. And this will certainly be appealed to the 11th Circuit, which is a conservative appellate court, but they also are really mad at Aileen Cannon. And they've written about 3 letters telling her she needs to shape the fuck up or she's out. And by the way, the in federal courts, the appeals courts do have the authority to kick judges off cases. I think they were about to do that.
I think
But
they also have the right to like appeal dismissals too.
yeah.
So,
So I'm sure that Jack Smith will be appealing this to the 11th Circuit.
and that's probably good news because you'll get a new judge.
Yeah, I mean, whatever the 11th Circuit's gonna rule, I mean, Trump's gonna appeal to the Supreme Court, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, that documents case is out for the time being,
which is so fucking annoying because like that's like, other than the literal like overthrow the government on January 6th thing, is the worst thing he did. Like,
and I just want to take everyone back. Cannon is on this case because of
not this Cannon, other Cannon.
the other Cannon, the bad Cannon. Well, you're kind of the bad Cannon too. The Trumpy Cannon was assigned to the case randomly by a Wheel of Fortune wheel. They literally put all the judges' fucking names on a little spinny wheel thing, and they spin it, and whoever it lands on is your judge. She was assigned randomly to this case. And everyone at the time was like, well, that fucking sucks. And
it makes me kind of wonder in hindsight if it wasn't in fact as random as our little spinny wheel makes us think it is.
Trump appointed judge.
Like, the casino slot machines, like, they're rigged. So I'm just saying.
Yeah. Again, 11th Circuit has been furious at Cannon's handling of this case, and they will be appealing to the 11th. So it's almost guaranteed the 11th will overrule Cannon's decision. But then again, it will probably ultimately end up at the Supreme Court. So that's where we are with that.
Unless the Supreme Court decides not to take it.
The Supreme Court could decide not to take it. I don't know. You do have Cody Barrett now, who somebody in the Federalist Society said we lost her or something like that, or she flipped.
I swear, I'm going to end up writing a book about her, which is so annoying because I hated her when they nominated her.
Yeah,
I'm like, if she ends up being like my fucking white whale, oh God. And she might be. Anyway.
Serena Waterford-ish.
Story for later. Story for later.
So let's get into the deep dive. Look at that, right on time. Troy does it again. So let's get into the deep dive. So we're covering the history of presidents that got shot. We've had officially 4 presidents that were assassinated, several presidents with near assassinations, and then several presidents that were shot at and missed. So Cathy's going to cover them all, a little bit of history about them, and some cool background information. This is a really cool deep dive. Cathy always presents like really cool informational shit.
I'm like the sports center of politics, like the obscure statistics that like, that's me. That is what I do. Watch me tie all of this together.
We should just submit this show to like Mensa or something. We should become like an officially Mensa sponsored podcast. But yeah, so
that's fine.
Trump,
I don't know.
Trump shot in the ear. Biggest assassination attempt probably since Ronald Reagan in 1981. But anyway, Cathy, go ahead. We have a PowerPoint, but it's not working, I guess. So Cathy's just going to go through this, and we'll post a link to the PowerPoint in the show notes. So you can follow along as you're listening if you download the PowerPoint. But we don't have it on. We're not gonna
processing.
We're not gonna have it on the screen for the video. So
no, it still says processing. I'm like,
you have to download
process it quicker, bitch. Is all I can say.
Bitch.
Yeah, man. Yeah. But anyhow, so I did this one, and the reason I kind of picked this is because I wanted to put everybody's mind at ease, because I am like the go-to. Everyone has a political question for the people in my life. So like you can imagine, like I got the message from Troy, right, that Trump got shot, and like my phone just went nuts thereafter. Everybody like,
I'm sure.
Yeah, and a lot of former students too. Like I had as many messages on Instagram as I did anywhere else. Like the kids that just found me like, Miss Cannon, what's going on? So like I immediately, because considering we've lived through so many once in a lifetime like fucking events, Troy, you and me.
God
like
damn it, I'm so tired of it. I just want to have like a boring year.
Right. It's very fucking frustrating, but like I wanted to. It's what I do with the kids. I'm like, look, as scary as this seems right now, I can assure you we've been here-ish before, and crazy shit has happened. Like American politics is not like new to crazy shit. All right. Like that's kind of like the vibe as to why I'm like, I do things like this, if that makes sense. So we're going to go all the way back to Andrew Jackson in 1835.
That's going back.
I know, because he's such a likable dude is the important thing to remember. Like that's obviously why all of these people made the list. They're super likable by everybody. No controversy with these people whatsoever. It was January of 1835, and a man named Richard Lawrence hid behind the Capitol Rotunda as Jackson was like coming to arrive. Now, like he's walking with a cane by this point in his life, right? So when he got there, like saw Jackson walking up, he took a shot at him. The big loud bang scared everybody. They went looking, because it was 1835. You've got one shot, right? And then you need 15 minutes for your next shot. Yeah, so you had a minute to look around. So whilst looking around, they spot the guy, because like he also misfired. So like the gun misfired, but it still made the bang. So he's trying to like, apparently old guns when they misfire get like jammed, and it's like a whole big fucking process to kind of like unjam them. So gunman's like fighting with his gun over here to try and like readily like try and reshoot at the president unsuccessfully. Another misfire, because he clearly didn't fix whatever the problem was. So I know this is very like, Archduke Franz Ferdinand's level stupid here. You know what I'm talking about?
That guy was a soy boy for sure.
But yeah, so who Andrew Jackson is, and we all know Andrew Jackson's a little bit of a crazy asshole, right? So he actually chases the guy down to try to beat him with the cane before people pull him away. Remember, this is also in the time before Secret Service. Like the president's just walking around with his like entourage, his buddies, right? So Andrew Jackson tries to beat his would-be assassin with a cane, and he didn't. But that was the first attempted assassination of a U.S. president. Was 2 misfires and a caning.
Did they the guy go to prison or something? Whatever. They have a motive? Everyone just hated Andrew Jackson.
Yeah, he was Andrew Jackson was his motive. I'm pretty sure.
You don't really need a motive to try to take a shot at Andrew Jackson.
Yeah, he's arrested, and the justice worked back then, and like when you're caught trying to beat the president to death on the Capitol steps, or no, like shoot, like he's fine. Like no questions about crooked DAs back then. Okay, we're fine. All right, so we have 30 years, all right, of peace and prosperity, if you will. Not really, because it was like the gross time of American history, but we didn't have another attempted assassination until 1865. So 30 years of stealing land from natives and enslaving African people. Totally rad, right? Then we're all like, perhaps not rad. Maybe we should stop that. Totally fucking bullshit. And then there was maybe it's not total bullshit, and started a whole big thing, right? A whole big thing.
This was the era, by the way, there were no presidential protection. I mean, you could walk up. This was still the era where you could walk up to the White House, knock on the door, and there would be like a secretary that you'd put your name down if you wanted to go talk to the president, and you could
and a big wheel of cheese, right? Back to Andrew Jackson, if you will. I'm Leo McGarry in this fucking moment, right? There was a 2-ton pound of cheese in the White House lobby, so everyone could come and ask a question and talk to the president. Sorry, that's your fault, okay? Because you mentioned
cheese?
knocking on the door. No, well, I mean, yes, technically it was, but yeah, you remember Leo McGarry and the 2-ton, the pound of cheese. It's fantastic. West Wing for anybody who doesn't know. But
Keep
to
going.
your
I'm just
point,
gonna grab something off camera real quick.
Okay, so to your point though, Troy, like fun fact about Abraham Lincoln is that the day of his assassination was the day he signed the law that established the Secret Service. So like a week earlier, he might have had a bodyguard, but that morning he signs the Secret Service into law, goes home, takes a shower, goes to the theater, bang, he's dead. Whoops.
It's crazy.
It is. It's always been one of my little like favorite history funny fact kind of things. But we all pretty much know the story there, but at least how he died in like Ford Theater. But what people might not know unless they, I don't know, paid attention in history class or watched Drunk History, because I'm pretty sure they did an episode of it. But it was actually like a whole conspiracy plot. Like they weren't just going to kill Abraham Lincoln. They were going to kill like Johnson and like everybody else. It was literally an attempted overthrow of the government because they wanted slavery so bad they were willing to have a little coup. Just a little bit of a coup.
It was a mini coup, and I think historically it's still accepted that these guys acted alone. I don't know that they had any like orders to do this because they were low rent dudes. Like,
yeah, I think that's one of those historical conspiracies I would actually entertain at least a little bit, because when you see how like Johnson's assassin kind of chickened out, I think is how it went. But then Johnson really backed down and really fucked up Reconstruction, and the South really ended up kind of doing whatever they want and very much had slavery in all but name. And
so you think it was Johnson's idea? That's why his assassin?
No, I don't think it was. No, I don't think it was Johnson's idea. I think like I think he got spooked by the attack and toned down like what Lincoln's plan for Reconstruction would have been. You know,
interesting.
Like, well, because remember his whole thing was sympathetic to the South, and he could have had they were willing to go to that length. So for the sake of the Republic, you know, blah 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 blah. I don't know for sure. It's always been one of those things that I've
his assassin didn't go through with it. Just like got drunk in a bar.
He got drunk in a bar and he was like, "What am I doing with my life?"
Secretary of State Seward got stabbed.
Yeah, I do. I can remember the other guy's name.
His guy stabbed him. Booth took off and hid in a barn house. Jumped from the box, broke his foot, and then escaped and was caught in a barn house.
Is it true that the doctor that saw him was named Dr. Mudd, and that's why we say your name is Mudd, or is that just one of those things history teachers tell people?
I think that's made up.
That's a history teacher thing. I was gonna say, because I've had like history teachers tell me no, it's true, but I also have had history teachers in public school before. So
John Wilkes Booth was a very famous actor, a celebrity, you might say, in his day. That would be like if I don't want to use Clooney because that would be weird. It'd be like if some famous actor,
Dennis Quaid.
Yeah, okay, Dennis Quaid. It'd be like Dennis Quaid assassinated the president. He was a racist Southern sympathizer.
So Dennis Quaid.
Yeah, so Dennis Quaid. Maybe not.
Here all week, kids. I'm here all week. Oh yeah, him too. The whole Quaid quad. Whatever. I'm a mess.
Lincoln also was snuck into the Capitol when he was first inaugurated. There was a threat to assassinate him before he even got to DC. So he was snuck into the Capitol.
It was like a whole on the train in the middle of the night where they had to like smuggle him out of whatever. I remember that story. It's a cool one. All right. So after Abraham Lincoln, things got like all the rage. Like assassinating the president was just like, hey, there's a thought, because it started to happen with remarkably terrifying frequency, right? So 1881, James Garfield in Washington, D.C. He's at the Baltimore Potomac Railroad Station on the 2nd of July, likely headed somewhere for the holiday, just trying to be president, not working whilst getting paid, the
He's
way
trying to take some time
presidents
off.
do. He was shot at the railroad station. He actually didn't die immediately after. He died months later. I think he got gangrene or something. But his shooter was Charles Guiteau, I think is the way you say his name. And basically what he had been, I guess he was a JD Vance, I guess. He was like a Republican I can't talk, politician who was like pushing Hoover, but when that didn't work out, he was like, or pushing not Hoover, whoever it was, I can't think right now. But when that didn't work out, he was like, oh, okay, Garfield, I'm your guy, like just chasing around like the leader of the Republican Party, trying to get a name for himself. And when he didn't get a job, right, for all of the stuff that he did, he went like jumping through hoops to try to impress James Garfield, to make a name for himself and get a job in the administration, and none of that worked. So he was like, well, then I'll fucking kill you. So he shot him. He took 2 shots to the abdomen, survived for a few months, and ultimately died of his injuries while in office.
Oh boy, disgruntled former employee.
Yeah, and it seems like what you're going to notice is it's like a 20-year jump, right? So actually it was like 30 years between Jackson and Lincoln. Then it's like not even 20 years to Garfield. Then it's just literally 20 years to McKinley. So it's just like a buzzer goes off and they're like, oh, it's assassination time again. Who's the guy? And it was William McKinley. Okay, it was William McKinley, but he got a mountain named for him, so that's nice. Stole it from native people, but whatever, it's fine. So 6 months into his second term at like it was the Pan American Exposition, like think World's Fairy kind of things. It's like that kind of vibe, right? So he's just, going around doing the I'm the president, aren't I cool kind of thing, right? He's in Buffalo, New York. And this guy who's a member of the Anarchist Party, because we did have multi-parties back in Assassination land. It was fine.
He was an immigrant too, right? Wasn't he like an Eastern immigrant?
Yeah, I can't remember what country. I wrote it down and it's not here in front of me now, but his name was Leon Czolgosz. I think I'm saying that right, but probably not. But it's like CZOL, like so I'm not good at those names, and I am admitting weaknesses where they exist, okay? And I feel like self-awareness is an important trait to have.
One of those names where they're like 0 vowels. It's just all consonants.
Yeah, so I did my best. So Czolgosz, Leon Czolgosz, I think is how you say it. Oh no, this was the guy who got gangrene and died. So he was shot twice in the stomach and survived. He was shot in, I think, July and stayed on until September. So for quite a while, he did not have a nice time. He died McKinley, died a not great death, like gangrene in wounds in the abdomen. Like, I don't care how you feel about a guy, nobody deserves to go out that way. Like, that was not fun. Garfield, I think it was internal bleeding, right? Like because it was the 19th century. They didn't have like the skills to find all of the stuff inside nicked and cut and stuff. So he dies of internal bleeding. McKinley dies of gangrene. Neither one of those are good ways to go. So both of these men, may God rest their souls, because that was not fun. So remember, it goes from 30 years to 20 years. Well, now it goes from like 20 years to 10 years. We're just getting a hair up our ass for assassinations. We're like, I can't wait 2 whole decades. We need to shoot somebody, right? So that is very much America. And who is it, Troy? Can you guess?
Well, it's Teddy, because Teddy Roosevelt became president because of McKinley's assassination.
Exactly.
And he had to wait a minute to hear about it because McKinley took forever to die, apparently.
Well, and that's kind of why amendments were passed, to make it clearer about, like, there were some consequences that are not relevant to presidents getting shot. The topic was presidents getting shot. I did the assignment as instructed. If you want rabbit holes, you tell me. There are plenty here. There are stories within this deep dive that could be deep dives themselves. I can assure you.
Teddy McKinley's vice president. McKinley dies. Teddy becomes president.
Yep, it's a whole thing. right? And I like, for those, I wish the PowerPoint was working today because I love this. I literally, Teddy Roosevelt, my very favorite badass motherfucker. My very favorite badass
Bamf.
motherfucker.
Bamf.
Yeah, and like there's a lot of people saying that like that picture of Trump is very Teddy Roosevelt. I'm like, no, no, it is not. Let's give Teddy his due here. Donald Trump got nicked on the ear and then let them take him away to the hospital. Teddy Roosevelt got shot in the fucking chest, spoke for 45 minutes, and took himself to the goddamn hospital. All right, that's a badass
Finish the
motherfucker.
speech.
Finished the speech
With a bullet in his chest.
and the bullet remained in his chest till the day he died. That is a badass motherfucker.
They were like, Mr. President, we got to get you to the hospital. He's like, no, I'm fine.
Like,
I'll finish.
The American people need to hear what I have to say. Right? Like, there's no fucking comparison. Steve Schmidt, very specifically, like, oh, for anything, like, shut the fuck up, Steve Schmidt. You're why we have Sarah Palin. You need to go the fuck away.
Meanwhile, Trump, the first thing he was asking for was his shoes so that people couldn't see the lifts in his shoes. They had to stand him up and put his shoes back on before they got him off stage.
I heard about that and didn't know if it was true, but I figured, like, it's one of those things where it's just absurd enough that I do believe it. Like, I shouldn't believe it, but it's just absurd enough that, like, yeah, I could see him doing that. Like, the level
Teddy
of vanity
Roosevelt,
in that man.
I don't know that there's any other president that was that way. I mean, that's the kind of guy that Teddy Roosevelt was. Like,
Teddy was pretty cool that way. I mean, to be fair, Andrew Jackson did try to beat somebody with a cane, but he was more just like he was just a little bit of a psycho. I'm gonna go a little bit of a psycho. Okay.
Do we know anything about the guy that shot Teddy? It was just like rando. Like,
it was just kind of like a rando. It was like a lot of times
really
people like just want to get attention or, you know, for whatever reasons. But remember, this is also the 1912 election was a really interesting one because it was Taft was the Republican, but the conservative side, it's another one of those like eras of political realignments, right?
Yeah.
So Republicans had been conservative, but Teddy Roosevelt had been progressive on the Republican ticket. And Taft came in trying to pull the party back to the conservative side, and that split. So Teddy Roosevelt took the progressive Republicans, formed the Bull Moose Party, right? But then Democrats were like, no, we too are progressives, right? So you had Woodrow Wilson progressive, Teddy Roosevelt Bull Moose progressive, very different flavors of progressivism. I want to be very clear, which, like I said, could be its own deep dive. This is why it's important when we say words that we all agree what those words mean. Okay. So this is what is important. And then they were running against Debs. Remember, that was like a socialist on the ticket. So it was
from prison.
Like, so nominally that election was a Republican, two progressives, and a socialist. And we elected the Republican.
No, we elected the.
Oh, Wilson. No, you're right. That's Woodrow Wilson. What am I doing? Yeah. I always forget Woodrow Wilson won because his wife was president, but that's a story for another day.
Well, yeah, it's another deep dive.
And he was disgusting. Oh, God.
Teddy Roosevelt was the, like, you know, the working people, all working people deserve a fair shot progressive. Woodrow Wilson was like, we need to create a white ethno state utopia.
Like, yes, we need to, we will take care of our people, but only our people. That was. But only if they fit my narrow definition thereof. He was a monster.
He was a fucking monster. Yeah.
He was really bad.
Teddy shot, survives 1912, loses the election though.
He loses the election. But that's a really important, like, it's like I said, a political realigning moment because it's like where Democrats get the idea that, you know, social programs are great, but we're going to hold on to racism. And that's what kept like the South, you know, and that's what made the South a very confusing political like dynamic because state governments in the South stayed Democratic through the 90s, but flipped in presidential politics in the 80s. And like how that it's a whole story. Like Dr. Eamon's class, East Carolina University. It's his fault. All of this is his fault.
It was a disastrous move for the Republican Party. I mean, everyone saw it coming because he split the party. Like he took all the Rooseveltian Republicans out of the party, and the Republicans split their vote. That's how Wilson won. I mean,
but ultimately, it did create the Roosevelt Democrat because the Teddy Roosevelt style progressives now didn't have a home, right? Franklin Roosevelt running on the Democratic ticket was to try to kind of push out the Woodrow Wilson Woodrow Wilsons and bring in the Teddy Roosevelts, right? And he held control of the party for a good long time. He shaped the Democratic Party for a very long time, and the bones of the Democratic Party are still very much built on both of the Roosevelts, even though one of them wasn't a Democrat, right?
Totally.
Those bones are pinned together in places, and many are in casts. We definitely need some physical therapy, kind of follow the metaphor, but the bones of the Roosevelts are still there. And oddly enough, the next president to get shot was another Roosevelt. Actually, he wasn't actually shot, though, so to be fair. So this is where we're getting into attempted assassination attempts, right? So getting shot and killed versus not getting shot and killed. Like, so they're getting a little bit better at protecting the president. Like, oh man, you gotta fucking, like, Teddy should have died. Garfield did die. Like, McKinley died. We got to get better at this. So 1933, Miami, Bayfront Park. So anybody in Miami who knows Bayfront Park wouldn't take the president there now. Like, shouldn't have taken him there then.
Fucking Florida, man.
Fucking Florida. So it was a guy named Giuseppe Vangara. He was who was I can't remember his story. Oh no, he just wanted to create chaos, right? So he's a bystander in the crowd. He shoots 5 shots, all of them missing the president. So a stormtrooper in a past life, if you will. However, 4 people are wounded, including the mayor of Chicago.
Fired 45 shots and hit no one.
Yeah, he did end up killing somebody. He killed the mayor of Chicago, but FDR. But to just show the badassery of the Roosevelts, right? He refused Secret Service help, right? And became something of like a living. He's like, nobody hit me. I'm fine. Fuck you. Worry about the people who got hurt, right? Like, so you got Teddy with a bullet in his chest. You've got Franklin like, I'm not the priority. And those are men who serve their country. So nobody compare Donald Trump to either of the Roosevelts. I swear to God, you can tell. I have feelings.
Offensive. That's fucking
I have
offensive.
Feelings for the Roosevelts, okay? I have nerd crushes on them. It's
a lot
fine.
of people had feelings for the Roosevelts.
I love them. I love them so
they were
much.
Popular dudes.
They were all but American royalty. Okay, so now I've included in this next one Huey Long. And I'm going to go through it as quickly as I can. And Troy, you got to stay on me on this because I could make a whole fucking episode on Huey Long. And once again, we can blame that on my professor from East Carolina, Dr. Tom Amon, who one day just somebody asked him a question. He mentioned Huey Long, and 45 minutes later, I had a new rabbit. So that's where I got the
Huey Long is a trip for sure.
Too. He is for sure. But as a governor, think of him as very Ron DeSantis-y, right? He started as sort of like a progressive populist, and he had a lot of like those positions, but in the way of Woodrow Wilson, like, but only if you're my guy, right? Like,
he was he was a Wilson progressive.
He was a Wilson progressive.
Government will take care of you if you're white.
So on his way to the Capitol after signing a bill, like to be fair, so he tried running for president in 1964 on like weird like to explain Huey Long, this is what I'm saying, I could make a whole episode of him, because to explain some of his positions, you'd be like, hell yeah, that sounds like a great idea. But then like 2 sentences later, you'd be like, oh no, never mind. Oh no, never mind. Right? Like, it's very confusing.
No.
Yeah, but remember, this is, the Great Depression, the world wars are bubbling. It was a very weird time in history, which is why politics was very weird. It's why I hate when people are like, well, Democrats are the party of. The parties have not ever really been static entities because they don't exist in a vacuum. They respond to the world around them, right? And Huey Long is an example. Like, he stayed a Democrat through the 1970s and shouldn't have.
Yeah.
No, sorry, that was somebody else. But my point here is that he's coming out of the Capitol, and how deep his corruption went is that there was a judge that was kind of starting to stand in his way from some of the crazy like consolidation of executive power. Like, he got in there and very much was like, oh, no, now this is my job. Now this is my job. This is my job. Like, the same way like DeSantis is very consolidated power, put in all of the loyalists, protected him like that. Project 2025, very, very Huey Long-y, except for like maybe, I don't know, not all of it, but the parts of it, right? So on his way out of signing the law that would gerrymander out of the job, the only judge standing in the way of him centralizing his authority and running Louisiana like a king, right? So he signs this law. He goes, fuck you, judge. The son-in-law of that judge meets him at the steps at the bottom, pumps like like 2 bullets into him, I think.
Oh, it was like a crime of passion. It was like an immediate like
It was
fuck
like,
you, I'm
"Fuck
gonna
you,
kill
don't
you.
go after." Yeah, it
Yeah.
was like,
Wow.
like Aaron Burr running for Schuyler Seats, Hamilton-esque level, right? He was like, "Fuck you, you went after my father-in-law." Shoots him twice. Huey Long actually runs away. He ends up dying, of like because it's a chest wound, internal bleeding, all that stuff. But he'd been carrying around an entourage of protection with him because he was such a fucking lunatic that he felt he needed protection, right? So his very own red shirts, if you will, who respond fire to the assassin and pump no, I swear to God, this is true, 60 bullets into his chest. The guy shot 2 shots at Huey Long. Huey Long runs away, and his bodyguards put 60 bullets in this guy's chest. Like the autopsy counted.
Ouch.
60 bullets into his
That's a
chest.
lot of bullets.
Like this is the person, like when Troy said Trump got shot, I was like, oh God, is this a George Wallace or is it a Huey Long? Like it's one of the fucking two, was immediately my thought. But yeah,
So
if
wait,
you
Huey Long died? Yeah, Huey Long died from that, right?
yeah,
Yeah, he was
Huey
killed.
Long died. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was killed. So that's the point. Like I said, I could go off on this for a whole
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
So if anybody out there wants a deep dive on Huey Long, Troy, it looks like you know a lot about Huey Long too. That could be
I
a
don't know.
freaking like, oh, you don't know enough.
Don't know that much. I know kind of the thing. He was like he was a progressive Southern. He was a Wilsonian progressive Southern Democrat. Was seen as like a rival to Roosevelt at some point, but he was.
Well, that's
but he was
exactly
also
what
a
it was.
corrupt son of a bitch.
Well, that's kind of what's weird about him because, like, he was a critic of Roosevelt because he didn't think the New Deal went far enough in its programs.
Yeah.
But he also little bit wanted to be a dictator, right?
Yeah,
So,
he had
like,
that kind of like benevolent, and he was like a cult of personality guy too. Like
he
people loved
very
him
much
because
was
he
a cult
was
of person.
sort of over the top, and yeah.
Yeah, so if you took the charisma of Huey Long and the racism of George Wallace, that is Donald Trump. Right? I think that's a fair way to put it together a little bit. But from then on, we have a couple more like attempted assassinations, and I'll go through them. Actually, the Harry Truman one is pretty funny. I don't know if you've ever heard of the attempted assassination on Harry Truman.
I have never heard of that. I didn't realize there was one.
Okay, so it was a couple of days after a group of Puerto Rican nationalists, because remember, Puerto Rican politics in the 40s and the 50s, after we kind of stole their island and all of that, it was complicated, right? And there was a lot of like tension and there was a lot of instability in Puerto Rico. So that's kind of its own story.
They were not happy with us. They
were not happy with us. So a bunch of Puerto Rican nationalists attempted to overthrow the Puerto Rican government that we so kindly put in place for them. How kind of us to give a government to the country we stole. Benevolence, really. Ungrateful colonists. That's the Brit in me. Sorry. But a few days after that, basically, the U.S. is like helps go down there to be like, they're like, hey, yo, there's a coup here. So they're like, we'll stop the coup. Sort of what we do. Like, that rhymes. That was funny. So 2 Puerto Rican guys get so pissed off at like Truman doing what the U.S. does, stopping the coups in the places we don't want them while funding the coups in the places we do want them. That's literally what Truman is known for. Like, that's his whole vibe. Okay. But he's taking a nap in the Blair House. So they planned this whole assassination attempt where they're going to break into the White House to kill him. They get to the White House. They're like, fuck, it's under renovation. We can't kill him. He's
not there. He's at Blair House.
Right. So you go to the Blair House. He's upstairs fucking taking a nap. The guys break in and fire a bullet. The Secret Service guys are like, the fuck is going on there? Run up. The guys run out of the house. Truman's awake, like, what's happening, everybody? Like, talk about Sleepy Joe. Sleepy Harry is what it is.
Hello.
So one of the Secret Service guys gets shot. The other one chases him down the road. It turns into this huge fucking shootout. And like, it like remains one of like the biggest like Secret Service shootouts in American history. And literally nobody never knows this story. Like I talk about this all the time and they're like, I didn't know this story. When did that happen? And I'm like, how does nobody know this? It's like a literal like spy movie, jump out the window, chase them down. Like it's the coolest, funniest story ever. And everyone's like, really? There's the best was when one of the kids was like, what's the Blair House? And I'm like, I quit my job. I'm not even playing anymore. I'm not even playing. Learn some fucking history.
I think Lincoln spent more time at the Blair House than he did at the White House, didn't he?
Because like that it used to be like where they lived mostly, kind of.
He was trying to get away from his wife, mostly.
His wife and the tarot readers, maybe.
Yeah.
So
White House was depressing back then.
John Kennedy. So Troy didn't know about this one either. There were actually 2 assassination attempts on John Kennedy,
Did not
but
know about the first one.
yeah, the first one kind of gets forgotten to history because, the second one worked. So, when you're good at your job, people remember your job, I guess. It's fine. It's fine. Whatever. So in this case, it was a post office employee, once again in
Going
Florida.
postal.
Literally going postal in Florida. Now, he wasn't from Florida, but he went to Florida for this because he felt that was the appropriate place for this kind of behavior. So he follows him down there with some dynamite in the trunk. He's like, I'm going to blow this motherfucker up, because that's the normal way to behave.
He went Guy Fawkes with it. That's interesting.
A little bit, yeah. But he gets there and he's like, oh, Jackie and the kids are here. Well, they didn't upset me, so I'll just go the fuck home. It's fine. And in between then and him
he
planning
showed up
his
with bombs and he did go through
yeah,
with
he's like, well, go because like Caroline and John are here, right? So like,
oh my god.
So in between that and him planning his second attempt, like the Secret Service found him and arrested him, and like that was that good. But you would think after an assassination attempt that they'd be a little bit better on their game protecting this guy, right? Not putting him in a convertible and driving him through Dallas, but then they put him in a convertible and drove him through Dallas, and he lost his face. So
they shot him in the face. I know. Where are you at with the the JFK conspiracy on that? I used to be a hardcore JFK conspiracy theorist, and then I realized that the only reason I was because of the movie JFK, and Oliver Stone is just a piece of shit. Most of that movie is very inaccurate. It's also based on the story of Jim Garrison, who was a slime ball and was very corrupt, was just a disgusting Louisiana. Speaking of Huey Long, he was a disgusting Louisiana sort of system politician. He was friends with Huey Long Jr. So you cannot base your entire opinion on the Kennedy assassination just from JFK, the movie, or from Garrison's book. I will lay that out there right now because a lot of it is not true. It's just not true.
It is a fictional movie for those of you out there. Like it is. But what was I going to say? I like the PowerPoint here is actually really funny because I kind of left it up there. It's like, this is the one you 100,000% know, November, Dallas Observatory, Grassy Knoll, conspiracies galore. Like, where do I land on it? I fall under the umbrella of the thing that's most likely to be true is probably true in politics, because the factor you have to always include is that people are crazy and unpredictable and sometimes do stupid fucking shit that doesn't make sense for no reason.
Yeah.
So
sometimes just bad shit happens. Like people couldn't grasp that just something would happen like that. Like,
yeah. Well, also I think like in this day and age, I think put it into perspective, like the guy who like read all over the internet, the Pizzagate thing, and went into the pizza place and killed people. Like, yeah, like Lee Harvey Oswald probably started reading a bunch of fucking crazy shit because in that time frame with that level of political tension, a lot of crazy opinions and like arguments and stuff were going around. He probably went down a rabbit hole, got a hair up his ass about it. And Lee Harvey Oswald's motives might be very similar to this kid who shot Donald Trump, like make sense to only him. That's what I think.
Yeah, it is a similar thing. It was sort of like a fuck up by Secret Service. And Oswald's motives weren't clear. The thing that a lot of people argue is that the physics of it, they feel like the magic bullet theory, and like that Oswald couldn't have pulled it off by the laws of physics. It's not true. The seats were not to get too down a rabbit hole, but anyway, the magic bullet is,
I can tell you were in the rabbit hole one.
The magic bullet. I've spent so much time researching this. Like I told you I used to be a hardcore JFK conspiracy theorist, and then the more I learned, the more I realized that they just the conspiracy theorists omit a lot of facts. For example, the seats in the limousine were not perfectly lined up, so you cannot, in terms of the magic bullet and the direction and how it hit both men, it would be impossible if they were sitting directly in line with each other, but they weren't. So stuff like that. The idea that there's no physical way that Oswald could have made it from his boarding house to the theater in time, which was like 2 miles away. They've timed it. He had more than enough time to get from his boarding house to the theater. Like yada yada yada. All these like little things that came out. He was a Marine. He had Marine rifle training. He knew how to fire a rifle. It was not impossible to get those shots off in 3 seconds, like in how many 5.6 seconds or however many. Anyway, just a lot of stuff that they told you was impossible is not impossible. It was very, very possible for Oswald to pull it off the way he did. Now, was he alone? Was he acting under orders? All that stuff, I have no idea. He may have been part of a larger conspiracy, but the idea that he couldn't have possibly done it alone is, in my opinion, debunked. I think you absolutely could have done it alone.
I think that's hilarious. You 100%. Like, I can tell right now. I'm like, wow, the hours Troy has spent.
You have no idea. I've spent hours. I've read lots of books. I've seen lots of documentaries.
That's wild. Do you know as much about Robert Kennedy's assassination, or was that one pretty straightforward? No conspiracies needed.
He was shot by a Palestinian. He was shot by Sirhan Sirhan. He was angry Palestinian. Shot him.
This
I don't think
sibling
that was a
rivalry
either.
Bobby's sitting up there like, see, still nobody cares about me. Everybody loves Jackie. He got a conspiracy. Poor Bobby. But we kind of covered his assassination in our 1968 deep dive, which again, relevant again. We should probably repost it or something.
I gotta do one more thing, dude. I'm telling you the JFK thing. So the back and to the left, like the image, the Zapruder film, you see him shot in the face, his head explodes. If you could see in the video that he was not shot from the front, because the front of his face explodes. That's an exit wound. The bullet goes through the back of his head. I forget the term for it because I'm rambling and I've had 2 glasses of wine while we were recording, but that type of bullet would explode on exit, not on entry. So he was shot in the back of the head. He goes back into the left because this is another thing. Again, the laws of physics that we didn't know about. He was wearing a back brace. Because he had whatever that disease was.
Addison's disease.
He had Addison's disease. He was wearing
also why he was coked out of his mind.
He was coked out of his mind. He was wearing a back brace. He bounced off his back brace. That's why you see him move like that. Anyway, there's explanations for all of it. 2
glasses of wine, guys. That's what it takes to get Troy on his conspiracy rants. That is what we have learned today. Woohoo! That was fun. It's okay. I did it with the royal family. I can't even.
While we recorded.
I can't even judge. Remember me and my royal family conspiracy? No. We all have our thing.
But mine is the anti-conspiracy though. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. So Bobby Kennedy, as you know, who's running.
Bobby Kennedy,
So that was a presidential candidate. So that's another example of a candidate. So this is why presidential candidates get Secret Service protection now, is because here you go, right? Bobby Kennedy is now and fun fact, during this broadcast, I got an update on my phone that they're upping RFK's Secret Service protection. They're I best not risk it.
That was the best Cathy tweet, was like, God damn it, every time there's a Kennedy in the race, something like this happens.
No more Kennedys. They're bad luck. They're bad luck.
I laughed my ass off, Cannon.
No, I know, because I think Ted Kennedy ran in 1980 and then Reagan got shot a year later. So no more Kennedys.
We're a little overtime. Do you want to do the rest of them on Patreon, or do you want to just wrap this up right now? Or you want
I can wrap it up pretty quick.
Totally up to you.
Yeah, because the rest of them, except for Link or what's his name, Reagan, are attempts, right? So we have the attempt on George Wallace's life. Like I said, I'm not going to say much here because I feel like this is going to be its own episode one day. But he is why the Republican Party adopted the Solid South, right? Boom. It was his. It didn't work on its own, so they added it to something else, and la-di-da, now we have Nixon, Reagan, and the whole thing, right? He is the inspiration for all of it. We hate him. But he didn't die. He ended up paralyzed. He was shot on the steps of the Louisiana Capitol during the 1972 primary, right?
Wasn't he shot 50 times too? There's a
couple of times. He's just for those who don't know who he is, if you've ever seen Forrest Gump, he's the guy that wouldn't let the black kids go to school. That's George Wallace. Okay, that's who he is. A fun one. 1974, Richard Nixon. Some guy hijacked a plane and tried to fly it into the White House to kill Richard Nixon.
Wow, I didn't know that one either.
Yeah, but remember, the 1970s, if you go back, it's a little bit famous for its airline terrorism, right? It was kind of a whole vibe. So the reason you wouldn't have heard about it is because who wants to to fly a plane into the White House? That's kind of a scary thing that you don't want getting around. But it was actually cited as a previous incident that they should have been looking for in security reasons in the 9/11 Commission report. So they actually hey, you shouldn't have toned that down. That's a legitimate thing that could happen, So don't do that again. kind of whatever. And then speaking of Nixon and Watergate and all of that, Gerald Ford, there were 2 attempts on his life in a fucking hilarious, like less than 3-week period, 17 days. This motherfucker almost took 2 bullets because he pardoned Nixon and people were sad about that, right? So the one most people know about is Squeaky from the Manson family. Lynette Fromm, I think, is her actual name. She was in a crowd. Like, he was on his way to go see Jerry Brown, I think, at the State House. He's like going for a little look at me, I'm a cool guy walk. And she like shoots him or shoots at him, misses. I think, again, it's a, oh no, she forgot to load the gun. Wasn't it something like that? Like, she forgot to load the gun. Whoopsies. She went to jail for 34 years.
That's a key component.
Yeah. She's like, what's going on? She never chambered a bullet, right? So she's basically firing. That's why I got, like, if you shoot for the king, you best not miss.
Do not miss.
Yeah. She missed very badly. She's actually released, though. She was released in August of 2009. So welcome back, Squeaky. I think she's done a bunch of interviews since then about
Squeaky's
her
out.
life in a cult. Squeaky's out. And then 17 days later, another crazy lady, outside what was the World's Affairs Council, which is basically like a what did he call it? Like a special interest international relations kind of thing. This one, in a similar fashion to Donald Trump, 1 bullet whizzed by his head. Another one missed completely, but hit a taxi driver outside. The taxi driver lived. Everything was fine. Why did she do it? She thought she could spark a revolution in the country because everything's fucked. I'm going to kill the president and start a war. Like, literally, like, crazy lady. So that was her. Then there was Ronald Reagan. So the slide, for those of you, this is why I'm so sad, because you can't see the slide. It's beautiful. All it is with love for Jodie Foster. Like, that's what it was. John Hinckley, basically, to impress Jodie Foster, who was upset at Reagan's policies, decided to shoot him. He took a bullet to the chest, I believe it was, right? I think he got shot a couple of times. He actually pretended to be okay. Like, there's this whole famous moment where he's like from the hospital out the window, like, I'm fine. But he was not fine. They faked it really badly. He suffered from the
death's door.
Yeah. And he never fully recovered from it. Like, they basically attribute like his rapid decline in his presidency to how close to death he came there.
Did he really say, I forgot to duck, or was that like campaign spin? That was the big thing that came out from that, was he made a joke. He's like, Nancy, I forgot to duck.
He said it to her when she got there. Did he say it in the moment? No. It was the kind of thing that you would say to your wife after hours of sitting on what happened to you. Yeah, like, my dad's goofy like that. He would make it like that's dumb.
Anyway, that came out. Like, and everyone was like, "Oh, Ronnie, we love you. That's so
you're
funny.
so funny." But one of his, what was like a big deal about his, is that his Secret Service agent was actually killed protecting him. James Brady, took bullets to the head, died like instantly on the spot. And fun fact, Joe Biden actually led the legislation in the Senate to passed the Brady bill in his honor, banning assault weapons, so those types of weapons couldn't be used, attack and kill presidents anymore. So, window of opportunity here, Joe. The next one.
Somebody said that they should pass the like Donald Trump assault weapons ban or something like that.
I think they should too. The MAGA Gun Safety Act. Make everybody go on the record as voting against the MAGA Gun Safety Act. Make MAGA sound like, our ammunition, guns, I don't know. Be clever with your acronyms.
Make all guns absent act.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know. Whatever. I don't care. But it's there, and that is a good idea. So the next few are very quick because they're all just sort of like incidents that got lost in the news that nobody knows about. Did you know there was an assassination attempt against George H.W. Bush?
I think I did know that. That one I knew about that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It didn't happen here. It was in like Georgia. It was like he was celebrating like, oh, look at me. I won the war. So somebody was like, how about I blow up your car? And the Secret Service was like, yeah, the country of Georgia. Sorry to be clear. Yeah. So they were like, hey, you shouldn't do that. We're going to get back at you. Bill Clinton was like, yeah, that's fucked up. I'm going to bomb the fuck out of you for that. And then 10 years later, W was like, they tried to kill my daddy. And we started a war in Iraq.
Yeah, that was the reason for the Iraq war, because they tried to kill his dad.
Which is why I felt it important to put it in here, because even though it wasn't an assassination attempt by our people on our president, it did cause a decade-long war for no reason. So there's that whole thing.
The Trump guy had something in his car. They haven't released what it was. It's some sort of like casings in his car. They think he might have been. It was either bombs or like attempt to make bombs.
Yeah, I saw a couple of reports, something to that effect, like explosives or explosive, potential material or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. So 1994, sorry, Al Qaeda tried to kill the president. Did you know that? Tried to blow up his motorcade.
What year?
1994.
Tried to
Or
kill
1996, maybe.
Clinton.
Yeah. 94 or 96. I feel like I have to double check
that was
myself.
right when Al Qaeda was like ramping up their shit.
Yeah, he was landing in the Philippines, and the Secret Service did a sweep, and they were like, yeah, the entire motorcade, like the entire path our motorcade had planned has like bombs and snipers waiting for you. So we're going to go the other fucking way. So they went the other way. And then Bill Clinton got big about Al-Qaeda. Like he chased Al-Qaeda around in the 90s. A lot of people don't know that about his foreign policy. Like when he was leaving office, he left like pages and pages of notes, like go at, like, these motherfuckers tried to kill me, go after them. But George W. Bush was upset at the guys that tried to kill his dad instead. So then Al Qaeda killed more Americans. It's a whole thing. It's right there. There were 2 incidents of George W. Bush that I have included only because they're funny. He was in Georgia, again, the country of Georgia, in 2005. And it was actually somebody, I think, going for their president, but they threw like a Soviet era grenade at them that, of course, didn't blow up because it was a Soviet era grenade. So that was fun. Somebody did end up getting killed, but it was like one of their officials. So it was really more him getting caught in an attack on another president. But my favorite is 2008. Shoegate. Remember Shoegate?
Yeah.
He was at a press conference. Yes, we were at a press conference in Baghdad and pissed off at him for starting a war in their country. The guy took his shoes off and threw him at his head, and it was the funniest fucking thing that ever happened in my life. Like to this day, like there was nothing funnier than George Bush like ducking
next to the new like Iraqi prime minister.
Oh God, I know. So and it's supposedly like the deepest sign of disrespect in their culture, and that's why they did it.
Yeah, to like have someone touch someone else's shoes is like a shame or something like that.
Yeah. But in the post like George W. Bush, post 9/11 world, what is really important is you'd be shocked at how many attempts on the presidents have actually been made that you don't know about. Like I went to like the list for Barack Obama. It's like 3 scrolls down Wikipedia. The number of times
Barack Obama was the most heavily threatened,
without a doubt.
Ever. Yeah.
Yeah, like the number of times. But the one that stood out to me and the one I want to cover was in 2011. It was a Tennessee plot. There were 2 white nationalists that had planned an entire killing spree where they planned to kill very specifically 88 people. And of those 88 people, 14 were to be beheaded. And the grand finale was the assassination of Barack Obama. It did not work. They are in jail. They are insane. But like that's the kind of shit that was going. Like people shot at the White House. There's they sent rice. Like there's so many attempts on Barack Obama that I would need an entire hour to do it all. Just to throw that out there.
Do you remember during his first inauguration when they got out of the car and how tense that was?
Yep.
Do you remember that? Like we were watching like CNN or MSNBC or something, and he and Michelle got out of the car and they were walking down Pennsylvania Avenue, like waving at the crowd, and even the announcers were like, "Oh Jesus, like please get back in the car." Everyone was like, "Oh my God."
Yeah. This might because remember, even George W. like they threw tomatoes at him in 2000 after the Supreme Court thing. So like if tomatoes got through, Soviet era grenades can get through. Can you imagine? But since the election of Obama, again, the point is that threats against the president have increased at an exponential rate. And in 2018, I don't know if you remember, but a lot of like top ranking Democrats and Democratic donors all received like packages in the mail with explosives, like Obama, Clinton, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, George Soros, because you know how much they hate him. So that kind of political violence has been around for a long time again. And it has escalated more since the Trump era. So like we said, there's going to be a lot of conspiracies going around. Like 30 years in the future, there will be somebody like Troy who deep dives into the Trump assassination conspiracies, and he'll drink 2 glasses of wine and share it on his podcast. That'll be fine. But
it'll probably be me. It'll probably just be me still doing this in 2 days.
but but also just bear in mind, like, make sure you confirm your sources unless you're finding it in more than one place. Like, don't believe everything you read. Most of what you see right now is going to be bullshit. Like,
It already has been. The bullshit is really
yeah,
funny.
like there's going to be a lot more fake than there is fact. So be really discerning and like don't die on too many hills on this one, because we're not going to know a lot intentionally, because this is a national security thing. You know what I'm saying? And I'm old enough to remember how national security post 9/11 went, and you're not going to learn a lot about this for a while.
So the Justice Department is officially appealing the Cannon ruling, so that's good.
Well,
So
good.
there you go.
Hopefully they can throw her in jail too.
But yeah, I'm telling, like, I think the Kennedy assassination was, if this is like my put a bow on it, I think the Kennedy assassination was the beginning of a lot of people's like belief in, nothing happens by chance, everything's planned, the CIA is behind everything, all that kind of conspiracy theory, and it's not like the Kennedy assassination sucked. It was tragic. Like I said, I don't know if there was more to it than that. Kennedy had a lot of enemies, but to Cathy's point, like sometimes these things just happen. Like we cannot just assume things without evidence and proof and that kind of thing.
Sometimes it is literally just a crazy person who did a crazy thing because they woke up feeling crazy that day, as evidenced by Squeaky, who tried to kill Mr. Ford.
Yeah. I think conspiracy theories, skepticism, I think, is healthy to a point, and I think once you take it too far, it becomes very unhealthy.
Yeah,
we've lost so much faith in our institutions. Like your video the other day where the lady was like, my 11-year-old said it was staged. It's like, okay, so now we have 6th graders like saying that things are BS.
Dude, and that video got taken down by TikTok. So as I'm talking about the lack of political efficacy and why it's important to try to trust your institutions, they took it down for like authenticity and misinformation. I was like, so me telling you people don't trust information is now being labeled as I quit. TikTok sucks so bad. But the trolls are out in full force.
Literally saying like, stop spreading misinformation, and they take it down.
And then they called it misinformation. I was like, okay, like fine. It's fine.
Yep. All right, Cathy,
so I hope we enjoyed that.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. I'll get the PowerPoint. I'll get a link to the PowerPoint in the show notes so people can take a look at it. It's a pretty funny PowerPoint.
It is.
Thanks everybody for joining us today. RNC convention all week. We should have more coverage of that next week. Maybe do another Patreon deep dive in a few days. Again, head on over to Patreon, patreon.com/justbuylesscoffee. Subscribe $5 a month to get access to the exclusive deep dives and pre-show content. If you're listening on the audio only versions, make sure you're downloading the episode to your device. Downloads are how we are ranked with other news and political podcasts. So do us a favor, it doesn't cost you anything. Just click that download button. It helps us out. If you want to see our faces, you want to see the video content, head on over to YouTube, Just Buy Less Coffee YouTube channel. You can see Cathy and I chatting it up on camera. Thanks, everybody, for a great conversation today, and we will see everybody next time. You've been listening to Just Buy Less Coffee, answering the deeper questions of American politics, featuring Troy Matthews at Keep Troy Blue and Cathy Cannon at Cannon's Fodder. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and X. All opinions are our own.